Hello everyone. This is the Dolphin Nautilus CC Plus Wi-Fi automatic pool vacuum cleaner. I've been using this for a while now, so I figured I'd share some thoughts. What made me try this one in the first place was pretty simple. I wanted something that could take over the boring part of pool cleaning without making me deal with hoses, booster pumps, or a bunch of setup every time. I wanted to drop it in, let it do its thing, and come back to a cleaner pool. That has mostly been my experience with this one. When I first picked it up, it felt solid right away. It's not tiny, but it's also not awkward to handle. The handle sits in a good spot, so lowering it into the water and pulling it back out feels manageable. Once it's in the pool, it doesn't need anything from the pool system itself. It runs on its own power supply, so I'm not tying up the main pump or messing with suction lines. I like that because it makes the whole cleaning routine feel separate and simpler. Setup was easy on the physical side. I plugged the power supply into the outlet, dropped the cleaner in, let the air come out, and started a cycle. That part felt straightforward. The app side was less smooth for me. It works, but I wouldn't call it effortless. I had to make sure I was on 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, and pairing took more patience than I expected. Once I got it connected, the app was useful for scheduling, but I also realized pretty quickly that this is not the kind of robot that gives a lot of control. I can set cleaning schedules, but I can't manually drive it around to target one dirty corner, and I can't really fine-tune much beyond the basics. In actual use, the thing I noticed most is that it does a good job on the floor. That's where I saw the biggest difference. It picks up leaves, dirt, and the usual stuff that settles down there. It also climbs the walls better than I expected the first time I watched it. The track system gives it decent grip, and it doesn't look like it's struggling on the vertical sections. If your main problem is dirt on the pool floor and lower walls, this takes a lot of work off your hands. The scrubbing helps too. I could tell it was loosening stuck on dirt instead of just rolling over the surface. My pool still needs regular water chemistry care, obviously, but this cleaner cuts down a lot on the manual brushing and vacuuming I used to do. That's the part I appreciate most over time. It saves effort more than anything else. One thing I need to be honest about is the waterline. It climbs, but in my use, it does not really clean the waterline the way some people might expect. It gets close, then turns away. So if you're hoping it will fully replace brushing that scum line or tile line, that was not my experience. I still have to do that part myself. For some people, that won't matter much. For others, that's going to be a deal breaker. The filter setup is one of the easier parts of owning it. The top opens up, and I can pull the filter cartridges out without making a huge mess. Rinsing them off with a hose is simple. That part feels much easier than older cleaners I've dealt with. I also like that I'm not reaching deep into a dirty bag from the bottom. It's a cleaner process, and it saves time after each cycle. Something else I noticed over time is that it's pretty quiet. Once it's in the pool, I can go about my day and mostly ignore it. It's not one of those things that makes the backyard feel busy or noisy. I like being able to let it run while I'm doing something else. There are a couple of practical issues I ran into. One is that it can get hung up in certain pool layouts. If you have awkward steps, ledges, ladders, or shallow sun shelf areas, that's something to think about. In a simple pool shape, I think it makes more sense. In a more complicated layout, I've seen it hesitate or get stuck, and then I have to step in. It's not constant, but it does happen. Another thing is the standard filter. For bigger debris and normal dirt, it's fine. For very fine silt, pollen, or superfine dust, I noticed it doesn't always catch everything the way I want. If your pool gets that kind of fine stuff often, that's worth knowing before you buy. It doesn't mean the cleaner is useless. It just means you may still see some fine material left behind unless you use a finer filter option. Compared with other pool cleaners I've used or looked at, this one sits in that middle area where it gives me more convenience than a basic suction cleaner, but it doesn't have all the extra control or coverage of more expensive robots. That's basically how it feels in real use. It's easier and more independent than the old hose style cleaners, and I prefer that. At the same time, it's not the kind of unit that handles every single part of pool cleaning without compromise. A common concern I had before buying was whether it would be annoying to pull out of the water. That part has actually been better than I expected. It drains water as I lift it, so it doesn't feel as heavy as it looks. I was also concerned about the cord tangling, and in my use, the swivel has helped. I haven't had major cord issues, which matters because that can get old fast. I think this is a good fit for someone with an in-ground pool who wants to cut down on manual vacuuming and doesn't need every advanced feature. If your pool is up to around 40 feet and the shape is fairly normal, I can see this fitting into regular use pretty well. If you care a lot about waterline scrubbing, want app controls with more freedom, or have a tricky pool layout, you may want to keep looking. For me, it's been a helpful tool, not a magic fix. It handles the bulk of the cleaning work, saves me time, and keeps the pool in better shape with less effort from me. I still have to do a few things myself, but that's true with most pool robots anyway. If you want something simple that works well on the floor and walls, and you're okay with a few limits, I think this one makes sense. If you're expecting it to cover every inch perfectly and never get stuck, I'd keep those expectations in check. I will leave all the information about the Dolphin Nautilus CC Plus Wi-Fi automatic robotic pool vacuum cleaner in the comments. I hope to see you again in the following videos.